This is American Dreams, the program where we interview thought leaders and entrepreneurs and bring their ideas to you in real-world context. Hi, this is Alan Olson, and welcome to American Dreams. Good to have you with us today. And today we're going to be visiting with Pulak Sinha. Pulak, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Al.
All right, Pulak, you're the CEO of Pepper. You can find it on pepper.com, and we're really happy to have you with us today. But just to start off, give the listeners some background of tell us a little bit about you, who you are, how you got to where you are today, and then we'll jump into your the platform for Pepper.
Sure. Where we are today, or where I am today, it's always serendipitous, isn't it? So I grew up in India. I was happily working there. I was part of a startup there, and this was the late 1990s. I think there was this big wave where India got involved, which was the Y2K wave, and they said, "Oh, things are the world over are going to blow up," and that was the time there was a big change even in India that was happening. And I was part of this startup which said, hey, you are doing well here. Why don't you go to the US and start our operations there? So I came to the US 1998. And I was an engineer by profession and had no idea what I was going to be doing here. I was starting this company, but this didn't go anywhere. So ended up I did my MBA at Columbia and ended up at a bank. I was in New York. Everybody gets to a bank in New York. And in this bank, there was this trading desk which said, we need some help. So I said, what help do you need? I had no idea what a trading desk was. I had no idea what they traded. They asked me a few questions. I was able to answer them. So I said, maybe this guy is good enough for us to keep. And as luck would have it, that desk spun off into a hedge fund. And that hedge fund was called GSO Capital. It became one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And it was bought by Blackstone a few years later. So I was part of all of those journeys, and I learned a lot there. I learned a lot about what finance was. And I'm taking all the learnings and all the different things that I did there and started Pepper with it.
And so the platform Pepper. First, tell me about the name Pepper.
Everybody who starts a company actually spends a lot of time on finding that name. Somebody comes up with Yahoo. Somebody else comes up with a Google. We were in the same boat, trying to figure out where to get a name that would really mean something to some people. And it wasn't an easy name to come by. The way it happened was our offices were on Wall Street, and at the end of Wall Street is the Trinity Church. And one day it was raining really hard, and I was I was walking back from our offices, and I went inside the church. And in the church, there are lots of stories written all over the place. And I was reading one of the stories, and it was about how this church was established during in 1695, and the British government that time had given all this land to the church, and the church was getting established. And it was a fascinating story. Actually, it was really fascinating. And so I went back and checked on it. And one of the things they mentioned was all of this land, which is massive today, valued. All of this land was given to Trinity Church for one peppercorn a year. And I said, oh my God, that's a great name for any instrument where you're trading. And that's how I got to use the name Pepper. It was you hear it every day. I mean, I was putting pepper in my eggs every day, but never thought of it from that side. But that one peppercorn actually changed everything.
So let's look at the model. Okay, so when entrepreneurs start up companies, they're looking to solve a problem. What is Pepper there? Why does Pepper exist? What are they out to solve?
This goes back to where I worked at GSO, and it goes back and talks about a number of different things. And as I grew there, one of the big pieces that we saw was was this whole sector which was developing its credit management. These are complex instruments that are being built and managed by large investment managers. And the one thing that I realized was technology wasn't playing a big part in all the work that these managers are doing. Technology was a very, very small end of road part where it was just, oh, yeah, we have a technology system somewhere. And the way I could see and the way I had seen technology grow in on the West Coast, and some of my best friends were there, it was an amazing space that was growing in the early 2000s and 2000 to 2010 when all the Facebooks and the Amazons became really big. And to me, these two had to come together and to solve the problem of asset management. And that's what that was the goal. That was what I wanted to do. And the problems are if you look at it, they're standard. I mean, everybody has the same problem. Oh, my data is everywhere. I can't find this. It takes too much time. My processes are bad. So those problems have always existed, but the solutions have not existed. And that is what we are trying to solve with
So
Pepper.
when you're looking at the talk to me about what is asset tech and why should we care?
Asset tech is really one of the deep subjects which we are kind of aware of, all of us, but never really get into what asset management, what all of this is all about. And I'll take an analogy. All of us, everybody in the US will probably talk about and have opinions and have debated about healthcare. And it's a huge area, and we know it needs to get better, and it needs to do. There are so many inefficiencies in it, and asset management is a very similar sector, very very similar. It is absolutely massive. I mean, today American managers or investment managers are managing close to over 100 trillion in assets. That's more than all of the let's say, the GDP of USA. And they are managing, and that money actually affects us directly. Our 401k is there, pension funds are there, endowments are there. They're all using these asset managers to manage that amount of money. So on one hand, it directly affects us. On the other hand, it affects the whole economy. When these asset managers actually allocate money to the right sectors, we have growth. If there are many countries where all of this money is actually siphoned away, and then we see what happens there. So it's a dynamic sector. It's a very large sector. It's extremely complex. Lots of regulations. Uh, Quite, I would say, opaque. And technology is what will make it available to a bigger audience, and more people will get into it, and we'll have better systems. So that's what asset tech is all about. How do we bring that sector out and provide them with the tools so that they can, one, they can manage the complexity, and two, they allocate better. They are better as a strategic partner.
So Pulak, what are some of the lessons that you've learned in running a startup?
The first thing, and this is something that is very deep for me, is it really brings out who you are as a person. You can't be, you have to be honest with yourself of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And even if I take away everybody, that honesty to self was one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned. I don't think I had ever thought about myself more in any other role anywhere else than when I started this. So that was, I think, the number one thing. But there are two other things which I think I care about. One was the second one is creativity. What I realized was creativity is not just about making art or making music. I mean, obviously, those guys are hugely creative. Uh, it is also about being able to do things in a way where you can create a lot more value than what you're putting in. And that creativity has what kept Pepper together. It we the way the paths that different entrepreneurs choose are always different. Ours are is our own path, and but what has sustained us and what has put things together is the creativity of the team. And the third thing I will say is, and this is something that Malcolm Gladwell has talked about, and others have talked about, 10,000 hours of something. When you work on something and becomes you become a master in that. I don't say that we have put 10,000 hours, but when the team puts that kind of thing together, those kind of hours together, they really can produce good stuff. They really can change the world. And creating that team and being able to do that was the third big lesson for me.
So, from the client's perspective, why would clients come and use your services when they have options out there in the market? What is your value added?
I think more than anything else, what we are aiming to create is the trust, and trust in so many different ways. Trust in the system, trust in the data itself. I mean, today what does happen is there are systems, but the asset manager may not trust that system and say that the data is right. So the trust in the data, but more than that, the trust in that Pepper will be providing them with the services that they require. And that trust is extremely important, especially in this space when a large asset manager is managing billions of dollars. He needs to trust us explicitly and implicitly. And if he does not do that, he will just move away from us. So our whole goal is to create this trust, and this trust at multiple levels. And that's what I have been focused on from day one, whether this is the way we interact with our clients. This is the way our security needs to be there. This is the way our the data needs to be housed. And data for a client, for our clients, is extremely important, and it's their data, so nobody else is extracting value out of it. I mean, we see that in the social media today, that people take that somebody else's data and then just use it. You can't do that with asset management. You have to be good guardians of that data. And so we are creating all the values of trust. Everything to us is about the trust, and I think that will be what we will be able to bring to our clients over the long term.
Now, there's always a good story in navigating cultures for, especially for first generation immigrants. Tell me yours.
Oh yeah, every immigrant, and especially now that there have been a lot of success stories in the U.S. So many CEOs now are Indians, so we get to hear so many of these stories. But all of them will have a few things in common. They almost all will say we came with two suitcases, very little money. We landed on a cold day somewhere in New York. We were vegetarians, didn't get any food to eat. We're speaking a strange English language. So those are common. Those I had it also. So that didn't change. But what was interesting was I had learned to drive in India. I wasn't a great driver or anything. My the first employer that I had, he bought me a car. It was a 10-year-old car. It worked. And I think the first week I was driving it, and I was driving it with my wife in it, and it became hugely foggy. And I did not know how to turn the heater on so that the fog will go out of the screen. And I was driving, and every 2 minutes I was stopping and trying to rub off that fog, and I didn't know what to do. And then this guy who comes up, he says, "You are new to driving," and he helped me. He just showed me that switch had to be turned on, and this thing could be driven. I had never driven with foggers or defoggers on in India. Never seen that switch. So that was to me it was, you will get help if you are if you need help, you will get the help that you require, and you just have to keep doing the things that you are doing. And I think that was, to me, a big inspiration that I got from, I don't know who that gentleman was. He just took his time. Soon on a highway, he stopped next to me and gave me that instruction.
All right, Pulak, I got time for one final question. Okay, how do you think you can change the alternatives market?
I think that's a very important question. And that goes to the heart of what we are building. We are building. We have ins- we have a platform strategy that we are trying to put together, where what we want to do is have hundreds of investment managers all working on a single platform. Each of them have their own sets of data. Each of them have their own workflows. Each of them are independent of each other. But at the end of the day, they are all connected in many ways. A pension fund invests in an asset manager who invests in somebody else. It's a highly complex chain. And we are creating that chain in a technology platform. And I think that is what will be a differentiator with what Pepper is creating in the market.
Well, Pulak, it's been a pleasure having you with us today on here on American Dreams.